This is the second of these two little productions on lumber mills around Greensburg, Pennsylvania. And first of all, start with a little slideshow while I say a few words of introduction. In the previous one, we talked about there was a difference between planing mills and sawmills. The sawmills were places where trees were converted into lumber, and the planing mills were places where useful things were made from that lumber. And I don't want to give the impression that planing was all that was done in those planing mills. There were places where all kinds of machinery was used to make all kinds of things, like windows, doors, siding, flooring, chairs, cupboards. I mean, bunches of stuff were made in the early mills. Another thing to point out is that the presence of those mills and the number of them usually pointed out when the town of Greensburg was burgeoning, so to speak, when it was flourishing, when it was developing, when it was growing. In the 1880s and 1890s, you see these things appearing. And you can see from that, that's when the town was really getting bigger. And when you get into the early 1900s, you see these lumber mills disappearing. Not all of them. There were several of them that actually were rather long-lived enterprises. The J. Cavode Reed Company morphed into the Greensburg Lumber and stayed in business until the time of, the memory of people who are still with us. Another one was the Struble and Walthour Company that started in Ludwig and then moved to South Main Street at 757, and that one persevered into the memory of people who are alive still with us. I'm going to show a few more of the lumber companies that we didn't see in the last little video. And then I'm going to show some of the machinery that they used in those lumber companies. Now I think it's time to shift gears here. I have to push a few buttons. Okay, we are looking at the Walthour lumber as it appeared at the 757 South Main Street location. A lot of times the photographs we have of these places are nothing spectacular. I did my best to try to revivify a bit. This is the present day mapping, or from the air, Google Earth view of where that lumber company was located. This is not the same building. This replaced the old Walthour Lumber Company. Just to show context here, this was Schaller's Bakery. This is Highland Avenue. Over here is South Main Street. This is Mount Pleasant Street. And the Southwest branch coming down here. And I might mention that in this point here, which is now a Sheetz station and little convenience store, there was once a lumber company that sat right there, the Walker Lumber Company. But that was gone many years ago. It was there in the 90s, 1890s. This is another rather truncated view of the Walthour Lumber Company that sat there from the 1920s into the memory of people still with us. This view looks north. This goes up the Southwest branch a bit to the place where the St. Clair Supply used to sit. And people remember that place, but before St. Clair Supply was there was a lumber company there called Soxman and Carroll. And that sat right at the intersection there of George Street and the Southwest branch, and we'll try to give a better picture. This little orange blob shows right where it was. This is the Southwest branch. Actually, now it's the 5-Star Trail. This was the junction with the main line. This is the main line of the railroad coming through here. This takes us to South Greensburg. And there was a lumber company over there called South Greensburg Lumber, appropriately enough. It was the company of a guy named Joseph Theobald. And we still have a street over there named Theobald Avenue, named for Joseph Theobald, who ran the South Greensburg Lumber Company right there. You see the southwest branch going past. Here's Fairview Avenue going out across the tracks out to South Main Street. That kind of places it for you. This is the last one we'll see. This was incorporated in 1923 as the Cook Lumber Company. 1925 mapping has it shown as the County Lumber Company for reasons I do not understand. But that one also stayed there into the memory of people who are still with us. That just shows it on contemporary Google Earth view. Shows where it was. This is Gas Alley. This is West Otterman Street. This is Westminster Street here. College Avenue up here. Now we're going to see a little bit of the machinery that was in these mills. This one was actually run by steam power, and it's a pretty big one. Usually you don't see planers this big. Usually they're smaller than this. But it was used in an operation that not only was a sawmill, it was also a planing mill. This is a planer also, but it's a smaller one. For this, you would put the board to be planed right in here, and you would go between the blades in here and get planed down. You could also use it as a joiner by using the open blade up on top. And here you see it from the top. This is the open blade that can be used as a joiner, or you put it down below and it works as a planer. This is another combination machine. It was a bandsaw. It was a rip saw and also a joiner. Another one, another combination. These combination saws were often used in the smaller lumber companies. Usually the bigger mills had these machines separately. You see the bandsaw, the rip saw, the joiner over here. This is a joiner, plain and simple. Not anything but a joiner. A joiner is actually a type of planer too, but it only has the blade on the bottom, and you have to be careful using these things. This one looks like it's being refurbished. It has the blade taken out and the cap on the bearing taken off. This is a machine to make molding. Molding was very important for baseboards, windows, doors, in the corners and around edges. This is called a double surfacer, which is a specialized type of planer. Now here's another combination machine, Smith Company in Lowell, Mass. They claimed that it would do planing, mortising, tenacing. It would make sash doors and make blinds. It would do sawing and turning and all this stuff. I couldn't, figure out how it did do all that, but who am I to argue with W.B. Smith? Okay, that's about it. And that's all, folks. We'll see you again sometime.